Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Bears make the playoffs for the second time in 3 years, but can't score and lose to the Saints 21-9. What's next for the Chicago Bears? Let's bring in the Hall of Famer, former Bear, number 99. It is Dan Hampton. Hamp, first of all, thanks for joining me. Before we discuss what's going to happen after the season, let's talk about that game on Sunday. Were they ready to go against the Saints, or are they just a bad team?
Look, the season has been just a grind, and unfortunately, I think obviously in retrospect, when everybody goes back and dissects the carcass, they're going to see there was a lot of mistakes. And to Nagy's credit, he made some good decisions, but he made some really catastrophic ones as well. But all that being said, there you are in a playoff game. And if you win, you go on. And it does, all the other stuff doesn't matter. Unfortunately, we were prevented from winning by the standard issue problem of the Chicago Bears for the last 2 decades. And that is, we have incompetence at quarterback. And when you have that, it's too big a hill, too big a mountain to overcome. And even though the defense played pretty hard, pretty well for almost 3 quarters, the offense once and for all is the problem. Now, as we look at the offseason, and we're going to get to this, that's one of the things that people have to realize. Every team, there's going to be 31 teams go into the offseason and say, boy, we've got issues, we got problems, we got to correct. We've got the same one we've had for the last 25 years.
Right.
We were saying this 3 years ago. He's a nice kid. You'd love for him to work for you at the dry cleaners, but he has a hard time understanding how to read NFL defenses.
Right.
And it just happens to be the most important thing a quarterback does.
Do you think when Wims dropped that pass in the end zone, it just deflated Mitch and there was no coming back after that?
I don't think it deflated him. I don't think it really affected the offense. Obviously, it affected the outcome. And people don't realize this. Every play affects the way the next play is to be played and the way the game's going to go. And imagine it like water coming down a hill and it hits a rock and then it diverts it. If we catch that ball in the end zone, if Wims catches that ball, then everything's different. Unfortunately, in the big picture, and I saw this over my years. If you've seen a guy that would get in the fourth quarter and he'd slip, or he'd get in the fourth quarter and he'd miss a tackle, you can't win with those people. Let them go on to their life's work and get a job somewhere. I'm just saying, guys like that drop touchdown bombs, you can't keep them.
Right. Well, no Roquan Smith. We still held them to 7 points in the first half. We were still in the game.
Yeah. You said something earlier. Did it look like the Bears were prepared? I think the Bears were prepared, but unfortunately, it was the run of the mill, taking scared to death pills type of an offense. And you know what really tells you everything you need to know about Trubisky? They take the lead. It's 7-3. And we get the ball at minute 58 on our own 18, I think. Any other quarterback in the NFL, especially one that's qualified for the playoffs, 14 teams qualified for the playoffs. I'm not talking about the Jacksonville Jags and all that riffraff. I'm talking about if you're in the playoffs, you've got to be bona fide. You've got to be competent.
Right.
We handed the ball off 3 times. That tells you everything you want to know about not only Nagy, but the offensive coordinator and what he thinks and believes and lack of trust in the quarterback. And, they can't come out and say what I'm saying. Obviously, they probably lose their job. They may lose their job anyway. But the point is, you got to continue and perpetuate the farce because the general manager traded the world away to drafting number 2 overall. And now this is what you're saddled with. But all that being said, I thought the Saints were very domestic in their offense. It was a dink and dunk special. And, the Saints They won because they're a better team.
Right. That's exactly why they won. So if you knew, let's go back to those 3 running plays. If you and I knew that, why doesn't Matt Nagy know that?
He knows it. He's the one that ultimately facilitated that call. And he probably told the offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, just hand it off. Let's go in at halftime.
With 2 timeouts, Hamp.
30 years ago, nobody would have questioned it. Now, today, that's, it's almost criminal. And a lot of people don't realize that the last 2 minutes of the first half and the first 2 minutes of the third quarter, a lot of so-called experts, and I know that Buddy Ryan, he said the last 5 of the first half, first 5 of the third quarter, most important 10-minute stretch of the game. Well, we're basically waving a white flag in half of it. Now, I don't know how much pressure there is behind the scene and how much smoke they're hearing that if they didn't win or this or that, they're going to get fired. All this should be irrelevant. And if he's playing it close to the vest to keep his job, he should be fired because that's not what his job is. His job is to win and advance. And if he was scared of losing his job, and that's why he didn't want to have Mitch throw a quick out. Oh, it's a pick 6. Oh, now the game's over. If he didn't want to put himself in that situation, what the hell is he doing being the coach?
So here we are. Okay, the Bears lose in the playoffs. They lose to the Saints 21-9. We finish the season at 8-9 after the playoff game. What do we do? Where do we go? Do you bring back your head coach and general manager?
They will.
Yeah.
They will. The firing of Doug Peterson, in a way, kind of sets a template. Think about this. He won a Super Bowl. He won 3 playoff games in 5 years. Nagy's been here 3 years, hadn't won a playoff game. He was in the playoffs in a legitimate fashion. In 18 last year, middle of the,
8-8 the last 2 years.
Yeah. It's kind of like, what you're willing to accept. Some people, they're happy with a hamburger. Somebody, wants to work overtime to buy a steak. The Bears are happy to get a hamburger. And 8-8 is evidently, if they don't make a change, and here it is Tuesday afternoon, it looks like we're going to keep the status quo.
Right.
So it looks like the hamburgers are being passed out at Halisol. There you go.
So what is the definition of insanity? I love saying this. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So here we are. We're going to keep the GM. We're going to keep Matt Nagy. We're going to go back and try to fix this thing. It's not going to be fixed because you're doing the same thing over and over. But our quarterback's a free agent. Are they going to bring him back? Or are they going to try to find somebody else who's out there?
My opinion is they're all coming back, and it's all going to be the same thing.
Oh.
And the ad campaign is going to be, we're fixed. The offense is on the right track. Our quarterback has taken the next step, blah, 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 blah. Now, we all know now, in hindsight, that, in December, you get a bunch of teams that basically are, just going through the motions and playing out the streak. And it was the 27th, 30th, 31st, 32nd ranked defense in football that occurred versus all I know is since, the Maserati Mitch came back in December, we played 3 winning teams, three.
Yep.
And in those games, I think he had 1 touchdown in those against 2 against Green Bay and 1 against the Saints in meaningful playing time. I'm not talking about the garbage time against Green Bay up there. I'm not talking about the last second catch by Jimmy Graham. I'm talking about real life football. They're not going to tolerate this kind of insanity. So, the Bears, beware. Just beware.
So to recap, regular season, we were 8-8 this year, lost the playoff game, only scored 9 points. You say that Mitch will be back. You say that Nagy's going to be back and Ryan Pace is going to be back.
All right. And you know why? Who are you going to get? They don't know who to get.
It's so painful. Before you go, I got to ask you about the national championship. Nick Saban, is he the greatest coach in college football history?
He's the best since Bear Bryant. And I haven't looked at their records. And it was different then, okay? There was no internet and cell phones and all that. I'm just saying, Bear Bryant was the goods when he coached. And since then, nobody has had the same type of tenure as being recognized as not only the best coach, but you got to, coaching to me is schematics. Okay, you got 11, I got 11. Let me draw up a play. Now that's coaching. And don't make the mistake of jumping off sides. Simple things like that apparently our coaches don't think are important anymore. Eddie Jackson.
Right. Eddie Jackson. I wanted to strangle him.
It's sickening. And by the way, he was coached by Nick Saban. Anyway, but at the end of the day, he's smarter than everybody else because he understands the importance of the little things. They get after you, and they made Ohio State look pretty bad.
Coaching and discipline. I love it. Number 99, Dan Hampton. Hamp, always great to talk to you.
Happy New Year.
You too, buddy. Take care.